see the insertion, updation, deletion and selection of the records with the MySQL server using Python statements. So we are going to learn Python connectivity with MySQL. First of all, we need to import the MySQL driver, and the driver that we are using is MySQL connector. See my previous video on how to install the MySQL connector. Now, after you have imported the MySQL connector, the first thing that you are going to use is the connect method. The connect method requires an argument, that is the user, which is by default the root when you install MySQL. The password when you install MySQL I have given as 123. The host is localhost. Localhost is the local server which is there on every system whose IP address is 127.0.0.1. And if you already have a database to which you want to connect to on your MySQL, then you can write that name of the database. So here I have a test database, and under the test database I have the table student with which I have to connect. So after obtaining the connection object, now con is a variable name given by me. It can be any name given by you. This is a connection object. Then after that we have to check, is this connected properly or not. So if is connected method gives you true, that means this connection has been done perfectly and you can continue further. So after obtaining a connection object, then we need to use the cursor method to obtain a cursor object. Cursor is required to execute any SQL statement. So with the help of the cursor, you will be able to execute any SQL statement by writing cur.execute and the SQL statement. Now when you are writing the SQL statement, please make sure that if you are putting the SQL statements within double quotes, then the name, the varchar and the date data type should come in the single quotes. As Python allows single quotes to come within double or double quotes to come within single. So if you put double quotes here, then it is going to end your query and this will give you an error. So we are putting double quotes to have our query, and within the double quotes we have single quotes for our data. So here I'll show you my MySQL. Here I have used the database test, and under the test I have a student table. Sorry, select star from student. Okay, so I have 4 records in my student table. So I'm saying update. Update the student. Set the name is Pooja Gupta where the name is Pooja. Where the name is Pooja. So this query, let me show you the name is Pooja here. Now when you do Python connectivity with MySQL, the set auto commit is by default off. So that means if any change is done to the database, to have permanent on the database, you need to do commit. So using the connection object, we are going to commit so that the data is changes are made permanent on the database. So let me run this and show it to you, and there is no output because the updation is done on the MySQL. So let me show you the records. So here you can see the name Pooja has been changed to Pooja Gupta. So if you will not do commit, the changes will not be done permanent on the database. Now next thing is how to insert a record using the execute method. So you need to have the connection, then after that obtain the cursor object, and using the cursor you call the execute method. Now to insert the records, insert into the student and the values, and this also if you want the data permanent, then have the commit function invoked. So I will show you that there is one more record added, which is admission number 5. Now, if you want to add multiple records, then the same query insert into student values. You give the first value of the first record, comma, the second value, comma, the third value, and so on and so forth. You can keep on adding multiple records, rows, tuples in your student table. So let me show you. Once I have run and show you on the SQL, you have 6 and 7, both the records added onto it. Now you can even do the insert operation with the string formatting operator by writing the query in a variable and the arguments in another variable and writing cur.execute the SQL query, comma, the argument supplied. And in the SQL query, I have written insert into student values, all the three values which are the admission number, the name and the address. So let me execute this and show it to you. So the record with admission number 16 will be inserted here. Okay. The next thing is, if you want to insert multiple values using string formatting operator, then you can, instead of using execute, you should use execute many. Execute many may, the first argument is the SQL query, which is the same as the previous one, but the second argument is a list of all the records, and the records may, you can have even one record, two records, or more than that. So even if you have to insert a single record, then just put it in a list, because execute many requires a list as an argument. So you can provide more records here. So let me insert this with just one record with execute many, and you will see that record number 17 got inserted here. Next, deleting a record. So it's a normal query, cur.execute, delete from student where admission number is 17. This is also to make the changes permanent onto the database. We are doing the commit. So you can see the record has been deleted. So the record 17, which was inserted earlier, 17TT, is no longer there. Now, as I told you in my previous video, that if you want to know how many rows this query has affected, then there is a variable called as row count. Row count will return the number of rows affected by the last execute method. Row count will output -1 until and unless you have fetched all the rows of the result. What is the meaning? I'll show you here with an example. I have obtained a connection here. Then I have checked is my connection established or not, and then I have obtained a cursor. With the help of cursor, I am executing the SQL statement. Select start from student where admission number is greater than equals to 2. Now with the row count, if I say cur.row count, as I said, row count will give me the rows affected. But if I have not fetched all the records, the row count will give me -1. So can you see the row count is -1. Okay, and it will then fetch all the records, and after fetching all the records, can you see the number of row counts are 7. So after fetching all the records, the row count has increased. So if I do fetch 1 instead of fetch all, then the row count will be 1. Then if I do fetch 1 again, row count will be 2. Fetch 1 again, the row count will be 3. Since I have fetched all the records, so how many records I have fetched from my cursor, it is going to show me the count of that, and these are total 7 records it has in the cursor. Okay, if you want that after writing the execute statement in the cursor, I want the row count should reflect the number of rows select has given to me. Then for that I need to do buffered equals to true. In the cursor I need to have buffered. Now what is a buffered cursor? Now buffered equals to true. This type of cursor fetches rows and buffers them after getting the output from the MySQL database, and we can use such cursor as iterator. So this will fetch all the records from the cursor and will buffer them. So after buffering, you have written cur.execute select start from student where admission number is greater than 2, and how many records, as you can see right now, are admission number greater than equals to 2. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the row count will show you 7. If I say greater than equals to 3, then you will see the row count reflects the value as 6. So here the row count is showing me exactly the SQL query is affecting how many rows. So if I do not write buffered as true, then row count will give me -1, and after fetching only the row count will increase. So if you do not want this thing to happen, you want row count to reflect the number of rows affected by the SQL query, then you say buffered equals to true. A cursor should be a buffered cursor. So now here the row count is 6. So I have now fetched the first record and I have then fetched the second record. Now I'm going to show you next in the update how row count is affecting. So if I have made a cursor as a buffered cursor and I said update student. Now let me see, the name is Pooja Gupta. So I'll say set the name is equals to Pooja where the name is Pooja Gupta. So here it is going to, now how many records this execute statement is going to affect? It is just one record because there is only one record whose name is Pooja Gupta to be changed to Pooja. So row count will show me how many records the execute statement has affected. So rows affected are -1. So as you can see, if you want the row count to give you how many rows the SQL query has affected, then make the cursor as a buffered cursor. By default, the buffer is set to false. Now next, if you want to create a database and you do not want to give the database in the connection method, see over here, I have only 3 arguments, the user root, the password as 123 and the host as localhost. I have not given database as test. So I want to create my own database, then leave the database argument here, and then after having the connection, obtain a cursor, and then in the execute statement, write the SQL statement, create database. So by this, it will create the database HHH. And then you have to say use this HHH database. So the database will now be made active. And after that, you can create a table by any name in that database and you can insert the values, the records, the tuple into that table. So if you do not want to connect to an already existing database, you want to create your own database. So the first thing that you have to do is in the connection, remove that argument as database equals to, and then in the execute statement, create the database. So let me create the database by the name FF and create the table in the FF. So let me show you the execution of and then inserting the values into the ST table. So show databases, and you see there is a database by the name FF. So if I say use FF, show tables, and you see there is a table by the name ST, and if I say select star from ST, you can see there is one record added into it. So you can create your own database also. So any SQL statement you can do through Python